Hello and welcome everyone to another Northbasics video on this channel. I'm planning on doing more of those again every other Sunday, since it were always really enjoyable content to produce and I think you guys really enjoyed them too. So if you want to see a specific Northbasics updated or created, this is your time to comment down below the video and I'll consider to make a video about it when it's a topic that should be relevant to a lot of players. Thanks for your attention and now let's jump into the video. Today we are going to talk about seeing through fog in Northgard. If you watched my or other players' streams in the past, you most likely have noticed them scrolling a lot through the dark parts of the map they shouldn't be able to see, and sometimes even pinging into the dark for their teammate. I guess that most of you already realized that you are actually able to see the units or creatures on a tile as a little shadow, even if you didn't scouted this part of the map already. This knowledge can help you to make better decisions while you're early game, or even save very important time then by keeping a few tips in mind. I'm gonna try to tell you everything I know about this, and maybe that can help you to understand this mechanic a little better, how to actually use your knowledge about the neutrals on the tile, and maybe even improve your early game by this. The middle tile in Northgard is a quite important tile to scout in the early game. Not only will one of your teammates get 50 fame for scouting it, it will also tell you a lot about the layout of the map that can help you to make better strategical decisions in balanced maps. Most of the times you will have a few Valkyries on the middle tiles, since most of randomly generated mid tiles are populated with them. For example, it could be the Sword of Odin, the Forge for the Sword of Odin, or Yggdrasil. If there are 2 or less Valkyries on the middle tile, it should be the Sword of Odin, because this could actually be populated by 1 to 4 Valkyrs, while the other ones should always be at least populated by 3 of them. You gotta keep in mind that the Odin's Wrath tile is also populated by a single Valkyr that can lead into some confusion sometimes. Always try to at least spot 2 Valkyries to be sure that you found the middle, while keeping in mind that sometimes it can actually be less. I would wildly guess around 10% of the times. The Wyvern middle should be the easiest to spot, and I don't think it needs much of an explanation. Just watch out for that huge dragon and you should be good to go. After you found your 2 enemy-free tiles, you mostly want to scout out the tiles that are populated by wolves before you scout out those that are populated by bears or dragas. To understand why I like to do that, I need to explain some core mechanics of the map generation in Northgard. Your spawn in Northgard will most likely have a good connection to 2 stone, 1 iron tile, 2 food sources and 1 lore stone without the need to kill dragas or bears. You might know that what I said isn't true for every game, since the resources that belong to your spawn are sometimes blocked by bears or dragas that are of course way harder to clear out than a few wolves. But it will still be very likely to happen, and you can make your early game scouting way more efficient by focusing onto the tiles that are populated by wolves, since those will likely be the ones that have your essential resources on them. Even though that you can fail with this strategy in some games, since the randomness of Northgard spawns can actually get you sometimes in different situations, but I can guarantee that it will help you a lot in general. And you will most likely be shocked how good you will get at pretending what unscouted tile will contain which of your resources. There's of course a little bit of experience required, but after you got that, you will feel a lot less blind in the early game. If you don't have too much experience with seeing through the fog, I have here a very basic tip for you to make it a little bit easier. Some screens can actually make it a little bit harder to see through the fog. I had some problems when I changed my screen a few months ago, but after a while I got better with it and I just needed to watch out for the angle I watched the unscouted tile from. With different angle I mean that you will have to view onto the creatures or units on a tile when you are watching them on the upper part of your screen. So players that spawned in the southern, lower part of the map will have a natural scouting advantage to a player that spawned in the northern or upper part of the map, since the player that spawned in the northern or upper part of the map will have problems to get the unscouted tiles into his upper part of his screen. Sometimes you can even get such a disadvantage with that it can be wise to not try to go for the middle tile of the map, because it is almost a guaranteed waste of time, since your enemies can see everything clear as day and will most likely be a lot faster with it than you could ever be. Just don't lose hope and try to invest the time you saved on your scouts to get a better eco start to compensate what can sometimes be a really good alternative to the 50 fame you will get from the middle tile. In almost every game, the shapes of the cliffs that surround you and your enemies, and in some cases even half of the map, are one of the most important factors that decide if a game is played aggressively or rather defensively. Since it can make the difference of you being able to reach your enemy right away, or if you have to walk through a high amount of tiles filled with Draugr and wolves until you finally reach it. It should always be quite handy for you if you can determine the shape of the map and the location of the cliff quite early, so you can plan the game based on this information. Sometimes the cliffs just won't allow any early rush, and sometimes your enemy will be way too close to try to lock down a greedy Lorwyn. Every information can be crucial, and I actually think this is one of the most interesting one because it can tell you so much about the general game pace that you should aim for. Even when the cliffs may surprise you sometimes with little holes you might have overseen, but in general it's a good info to base your game plan on. You can also see the enemy villagers running around in the shadows, while they can be hard to spot sometimes. You should really try to find out where your opponent is located, even if you don't plan on attacking or even scouting him soon. Really valuable piece of information that could help you a lot in the later course of the game. It can be easy to think that the tile where the most villagers are working on should be the main tile, but it doesn't have to be like this. So if you have better information to think that it should be on another tile, like knowing that the tile has a connection to the sea like all main tiles have, or you're playing on a mirrored map and already have a strong guess which tile his main tile has to be. Keep in mind that the map is completely mirrored, so the side of your opponent is basically switched around in comparison to yours. That can be a little bit confusing at the start. You can also see the army of your opponent running through the shadows sometimes if you happen to have a good angle on it. Definitely try to use that to your advantage, while scouting out those tiles and switching to the military map should actually be the most safe option for everyone. So these were my 5 tips how to watch through the shadows of Northgard and what you can actually do with those information. All these points are mostly just as important in duels, team games or FFAs. I hope I were able to tell you something that you didn't know already and you enjoyed this video. Like always, I wish you the best and maybe see you back in the next video.